Hi, this is Anne from Mytinylittlestudio, and I'm going to show you how to make this lovely Easter garden with the bunting and little terrace. So I've emptied all the contents out of my box so I can see what I've got, and I've made sure I've got some water and some tissue paper ready as well. So I'll show you what's in here. So you've got your bits of wood for the base. There's two stumps with holes in. There's one stump which is for the terrace. Here you have lots of flowers, different colours with wire on, that you'll be wrapping around the arch that will go into the stumps with holes in. There's the Liberty print bunting flags to make your bunting later. Lots of flowers, jewels, treasure, mini nest, acorn hats, cone, little leaf. It's a toadstool and bunny. And then you've got your sign. You've got your half stump with a hole in, your sign and a stick to assemble that. So first of all, we're going to start by making the base. So find yourself a nice flat surface and get the stumps with the holes and decide how you're going to arrange your garden. I'm going to do mine like that, but you could always, with the little stepping stones going up to the terrace, but you don't have to do it like that. You can do it however you like. You can maybe put the arch at the front with the terrace at the back. Or you could even just not have a terrace and just make the garden come out a little bit like that. It's really up to you. Have a little play around and decide how you want to make your garden. So first of all, we're going to start to glue. Make sure your brush is nice and dry, and then add a little bit of glue to the brush, and then just a little bit of glue to the bits that you want to glue together. So remember, this glue is wood glue and it does glue fast, as in strong, but it does take about 20 minutes. So you must just leave it. If you keep checking that it's dried, it won't dry and it will keep moving. So once you've glued it and you know exactly where you want to put things, glue them and then leave them and just wait patiently. So I'm just going to leave them there for a second, clean my brush, dry it off the paper, and I'm going to start preparing my sign. So I'm going to get the sign, the half stump with a hole, a stick, and choose a flower or a leaf. So first of all, check that the stick fits in the hole, and the end that doesn't fit in the hole, make sure you wrap the flower round with a flower at the opposite end. And then you're going to use this flower to help secure the sign when you glue that on. So get a bit of glue, put it on the back of the sign, and then position it where you want it and use that flower or leaf to secure it. We're not going to glue that in the base yet, we're just going to leave that to dry, and then I'm going to glue the base on the garden structure. So now decide where you're going to put the sign. Put a bit of glue on the back of the stump and decide where you're going to put it. I'm actually going to put mine up on the terrace, and I'm going to glue this pretty leaf underneath it as well. So I'm just going to add a bit of glue and sandwich them together. Like that. Now I'm going to make the flower arch. So get your mossy arch and all the flowers on wire, and then start wrapping these round the mossy stick. So just decide which arrangement you want to make. You might want to do it lots of them all together, or a clump of them, or sparingly, or all of them together. It's entirely up to you, but you can spend some time enjoying wrapping these round. A little bits of moss will probably fall off, but don't worry about that. You can always glue them in your garden later. But the more flowers you wrap round this arch, the more you'll keep the moss on the arch. So don't worry if a little bits drop off. So I'm just going to continue wrapping these round. Just make sure you keep a couple of flowers free, because it's quite nice to cut them and then add them to the base of your stump, or by the sign have a little flower poking out. So just leave like 2 or 3 flowers without wrapping them, and then wrap the rest. And as you can see, it's beginning to look really pretty. Just keep checking that you like the arrangement. There you go, it's finished. So now I'm going to dip the ends of those sticks in the glue and then put them in the stump. And then you can, because that structure is already nice and dry now, you can sort of like move the arch to make sure it's in a nice position. Because it's wire underneath that, you can bend it a little bit if you like. And I'm going to make the bunting. So get the 4 pieces of Liberty fabric on a nice clean place, and then arrange them the colour arrangement you would like, and then make sure that the dark side of the fabric is facing the table and the light side is facing up, because you're going to glue the light side and then we will see the dark side when it's bent over the string, because these diamonds are going to turn into triangles. So now get a bit of glue on your brush. Make sure your brush was dry first on the tissue and then put the glue on, and then carefully put the glue on the top triangle of the diamonds. There we go. And then I'm going to wash my brush and leave it to dry, and then add the string, and then you're going to put that along the middle. So make sure there's an even amount of string each side, and then you carefully bend over the diamond to make a triangle. You might just want to do this one at a time if it's a bit tricky. I can just about manage 4 at a time. And then you can just squeeze them in to make sure that they're stuck in place. And that's what they're going to look like. And then you can decide later if you're going to put them there or on the arch. But I'm just going to leave them to dry now, and that's going to be the last thing I do. So just leave them to one side, make sure that they've stuck to each other. There you go. So now I'm going to start decorating the garden. So I'm going to put this bit of grass there, with felt grass. I'm going to add a bit of glue to that. I'm going to put my stepping stones in place. And just carefully glue those to make a little step up to the terrace. I'm going to tear off bits of moss and then add bits of moss round to all the edges of the stumps and round the edges, like there. There we go. And now I'm going to build my little nest. So I'm going to add the feather to my nest. I'm going to add a little bit of glue. And I'm going to add a little flower. And then a little bit of moss. And I'll be putting the little Easter egg in here later, but I'm not going to glue that in. So now I'm just going to continue adding the flowers and the jewels and the little tiny shell and all the little fairy treasure. So you can have a real fun now just decorating your garden. Oh, I'm going to add the sign. So the sign's dry. So dip that in the glue and then add that to your stump. And then you can add a little flower there if you like. That's where I'm going to put my nest. If I'm just going to add the cone and the acorn hat, just make sure you blob a bit of glue on there. And it does take a little bit longer to dry the acorns, apparently. So just be patient with them. And you see I've added the toadstool and little bits of moss and jewels. And it's starting to look like a really pretty garden for a little fairy to visit. And there I've filled the acorn hat with some jewels, a little star and moss, so it looks like a little collection of fairy treasure. And I've just tied the little bow, the bit of ribbon into a bow, and I'm going to glue that to the top of the sign there. And I'm going to get my bunting and I'm just going to tie a little knot. That's where I'm going to put mine, over the flower arch, and I'm going to tie a little knot and then just balance that over the top like that. And I think that's just about it. Oh, the little bee, I'm going to stick the bee up in the flowers there on the arch. And I'm just going to place my eggs in the nest. And then I'm just going to place my bunny there as well. I don't think I'm going to glue my bunny. I'm going to leave him free so the fairy can move him around if she wants. And that's it, the pretty garden. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. I'd love to see a photograph.